I'm Hannah Fiddler.
And I'm Matt Riggin.
We're the co-leaders of the Liberation Music Collective. Welcome to the third annual Project Jumpstart Student Showcase at the Brown County.
There's a lot of bees in our lives. Cut us some slack.
We're from Bloomington. Yeah.
You can't hear?
The mic? Oh,
That makes sense.
is that any better? Okay. So I'm Hannah Fiddler,
And I'm still Matt Riggin.
and we are the co-leaders of the Liberation Music Collective, and we would like to extend a warm welcome to the third annual Project Jumpstart Showcase at the Brown County Playhouse.
And to make this possible, it would have been done without Alon Barker, Susanna Zodi, and Kathy Anderson. And before we begin this world premiere of Utopia, we'd like to give you a little bit of a background as to what you're about to see tonight. This project represents a collaboration between the Liberation Music Collective, Yale Cassander of WFIU, and the Brown County Writers, Readers, and Poets Society.
So the first thing that we've done is we've created a little musical narrative with characters. Our story is about a man and a woman. I play the woman, and Duran Jones plays the man. And we decide to join a utopian experiment with a leader, Sam Motter, on saxophone. Sam does not have any speaking or singing parts, but he represents his demagoguery with his saxophone playing. And then we've also written alias parts. So whenever I, as the female character, have some singing roles, Matthew Setzler is often written with me to portray some timbre and some color. And then whenever Durand has a part, we've written it with Matt Riggin on trumpet. And then we've also got these characters have some conflict. The woman is uneasy with what she sees in the utopian experiment and decides to leave. And the man defends the ideals and decides to stay.
And so interspersed with this fictional narrative, Yale Cassander is going to provide some historical background to the three utopias that are actually a part of Indiana's real history. She's also going to be reciting poetry provided by the Brown County Writers, Readers, and Poets Society.
And these poems we did in collaboration with these wonderful, wonderful writers who all meditated on the themes of Utopia and gave us some wonderful works.
Now, we hope that you enjoy this innovative jazz opera, and if you want to hear some of our other work, Siglo 21, our first studio album, is on sale in the back. But first, we hope you enjoy Utopia.
Thank you so much. Hear me, listen to me, tell me I am not crying in the wilderness.
Teach me, draw near to me, show me light from dark, paths that I should follow. Hold me, guide me in your love, let me know your ways, reveal to me your will divine. You spoke to me, I have heard your voice, now my heart can know that I am not alone.
Job tells the story of a man so blameless and upright that all the land sings his praises. But calamity befalls him, and he loses everything: his family, his status, his wealth, and his health. His friends gather to argue with him, insisting that his woes are divine retribution. But Job protests. He insists that he is innocent. He cries out in bitterness, "Why then do I suffer?" The answer that the book of Job provides is, well, quite open to interpretation. It's been a contentious puzzle for theologians throughout the ages. At its core, the story of Job asks gnawing questions of existence. Why do bad things happen to good people? Is there really justice in this world? If we just figure out the right set of rules, can we defeat suffering? The idea has certainly tantalized our imaginations for centuries. Reformers, revolutionaries, and mystics have embraced the hope that a brighter day is just beyond our reach. In the West, we have taken it one step further with our obsession with utopia. The word utopia comes from Greek no place, and it represents a physical place to play out our loftiest ideas. Be it in our imaginations or the real world, utopias are a place to build a perfect society. The term utopia was first made popular by Sir Thomas More in 1516 in his treatise of the same name. In Utopia, More described a mythical land whose inhabitants remake their society with radical ideas, such as the abolition of private property and complete religious freedom. To readers in the 16th century, More's Utopia served as a sharp commentary on Europe's political turmoil. Utopia is the hope that if we can become righteous enough, we will rid ourselves of strife. The utopian experiments throughout Western history have all chased after this elusive state of perfection, just as Job chased after a release from his torment. In the words of Deborah Cronin, utopia is universal appassionata of the human heart. Thomas's bluesy vision for humanity's harmony. One design, one goal, one chart. Perfection's paradisiacal progression. Imaginative, yet, if only, in broken time. Arcadia's idyll, where Pan blows gentle riffs on his pipes. We now join our man and woman as they follow their leader into a brave new world, determined to build their lives anew.
Where shall wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? God understands the way to it. Guide
confidence say, and the integrity of our ways, our hope, and we follow. Oh, our leader to this place of understanding, and in his knowledge, oh, he will guide us to the glory of God. The reward for the righteousness awaits us all. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Indiana has been home to 3 major utopian experiments. The first was a group called the Harmonists, who followed a German preacher named George Rapp. George Rapp and his followers were called post-millennialists, believing that human progress could hasten the second coming of Christ. But Rapp's teachings went against the dogma of the Lutheran Church, and the Harmonists found themselves the target of persecution. In 1803, Rapp convinced 1,000 members of his congregation to follow him to the New World. The Harmonists first settled in Pennsylvania, but in 1814 they relocated to southern Indiana. The community found that they founded in New Harmony was truly unique for its time. The community members shared all of their property and lived together without class or rank. They were strict pacifists and offered free education to adults and children alike. The status of Harmonist women was also far ahead of its time. Harmonist women even voted in community affairs, something that most American women wouldn't experience for over 100 years to come. In 1824, the Harmonists decided to return to Pennsylvania and sold their entire town to a man named Robert Owen. This brings us to the second utopian experiment in Indiana. Robert Owen was a wealthy Welsh industrialist who made his fortune from cotton mills. He was moved by the plight of working people and envisioned a world with freedom of thought, equality in gender and class, communal property, and education for all. Owen first tried to implement the vision at his mills, but his business partners grew tired of his experimenting and eventually pushed him out. Eager for rapid change, Owen decided to embark for America. He recruited scores of his friends, family, and colleagues to join him, including some of the era's most promising scientists and educators. As the Harmonists dutifully followed Rapp to Pennsylvania, the Owenites moved into their new utopia. The third Indiana utopia came in the 60s and 70s with Jim Jones and the People's Temple. Most people are familiar with Jonestown, the mass suicide of 1978, in which over 900 members of the People's Temple died after drinking Kool-Aid laced with cyanide. But Jim Jones started the People's Temple in Indianapolis as a church dedicated to universal brotherhood and racial equality. The People's Temple thought of itself as a nascent utopia. A former member summed up their goals. We were going to convert the world to brotherhood, and that was it. That was the dream. Jim Jones' reputation at the time was as an activist. He was instrumental in desegregating the hospitals in Indianapolis, and he and his wife were the first white couple in Indiana to adopt a black child. Jones' message of equality appealed to Indianapolis's African-American population, who made up the majority of his congregation. As one former Temple member said, "It's been the only glimpse I've seen in this lifetime of a real, functional, multiracial society. In that respect, at least, Jim Jones was successful." It won't be long now before we come to understand that all 3 of these utopias were far from perfect. But for now, let us dwell on their members' dedication toward the pursuit of perfection. The Harmonists built a physical metaphor of this pursuit, a labyrinth with a shrine in the middle. The shrine, symbolizing the key to a harmonious life, can only be reached after an arduous journey along the twists and turns of the labyrinth. In this hard work lies Utopia's potential. Wholeness, integrity, imagination, responsibility converge within the quantum wonder of the universe's endless potential. 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 We now join the man and woman as they arrive in their new community, roll up their sleeves, and get to working, building the world anew.
I wish upon this earth blameless and upright. I wish upon this earth in the sight of
May my hands be strong to work. May my spirit be easy to be swept up in the feverish hope of utopia. But those on the outside know that most utopias fail, and in the Indiana utopias were no different. In these three communities, a large part of their failure can be traced back to their leaders. As one observer wrote, George Rapp seemed like a tyrannical high priest ruling over his superstitious German slaves. Rapp certainly was austere. In 1805, he required all members, even married ones, to become celibate. This was the harmonists' ultimate demise. By the end of the century, they simply died out. Rapp also refused to allow departing members to reclaim the property they had invested. Some of these departing harmonists sued Rapp, prompting him to burn all account books containing property records. Rapp exerted psychological as well as financial control over New Harmony. He changed his interpretation of scripture for his own purposes, convincing his congregation that they were players in a cosmic drama, hastening the return of their Savior. Rapp even persuaded the congregation to start a Jerusalem fund to pay for travel to the Holy Land when Jesus finally came. When Rapp died, the Jerusalem fund was found hoarded under his bed, and it totaled $1.5 million. Robert Owen was by far the most benign leader of the three. We now take for granted most of his ideas: public schools, women's rights, labor regulations, and freedom of religion. But Owen was far from perfect. He was condescending toward the working class people that he championed. In Owen's own words, he refused to have the opinions of the ill-trained and uninformed on any of the measures intended for their relief or amelioration. Until they shall be made rationally intelligent, their advice can be of no value. Owen was also arrogant, clearly. He did very little planning for New Harmony, convinced that success was inevitable. Owen's community failed to get an economic footing, and within 2 years, most had abandoned the project for fear of starvation and bankruptcy. Even with his flaws, Robert Owen was a far cry from the monstrosity that was Jim Jones. Jones' son put it best. In his own universe, he was God. To outsiders, Jones seemed like a force for good, but those who saw him among his congregation knew differently. In the words of one visitor, when Jones finally agreed to meet me, he was sitting on a throne, surrounded by 10 of his followers. Swear to God, the hair on the back of my neck prickled, something that usually only happens when I see a spider. That's the point when I thought, something really wrong is going on here. A word that often gets used when talking about the People's Temple is brainwashing. It's hard to argue with that. Jones convinced hundreds of his disciples to follow him, first to California and then to Jonestown, Guyana. There he persuaded his disciples to commit what he called revolutionary suicide, one final act of resistance. And people believed his twisted logic. The words, "We died because you would not let us live in peace," were found scrawled in black ink near some of the bodies. George Rapp was severe and dogmatic. Robert Owen was well-meaning but arrogant. And Jones was truly a monster. But all three preyed upon their flock's yearning for a leader who would usher them into a new world order. With this in mind, consider the words of Pam Rader in her poem, The Promise. Holy books, they speak of peace, beckoning us with welcomed release, that from this world so filled with woe, to a new world we could go, and build together another life, not filled with all this worldly strife. Happily, they'd shut the door once they reached the distant shore, and choosing a leader whose big appeal would be the quality of his zeal. So much they didn't know. That soon the cracks began to show between the conditions oh so real and the perfection of the ideal came the force of the decision. In order to hold to the vision, who it was they could include and the others they must exclude. They thought themselves oh so wise, but human nature was their demise, thinking only that they knew the good and from the evil that they should build a fortress to defend. Now do they begin to descend. Soon the very peace they sought would become a war they fought to keep the dream and not fail. They began to tell a different tale. As deeper into depravity they sink, more of the Kool-Aid they must drink. Returning to our utopia, the woman confronts the man, uneasy about their leader's power.
The man we call a leader is but a serpent. The guile in his veins is poison, and his tongue is laced with lies. Beware his power. Can you draw Leviathan out with a fishhook? Or press his tongue down with a rod? Will he speak soft words to you? Dare to defy him once, you will not do it again. No one is so fierce as to stir him up.
What is this vexation? Your tongue is the lie, and your spirit drinks Our leader does great things unsearchable. The poor have hope, and injustice shuts his mouth. Marvelous things without number. And happy are we who follow him. For he moves by, he binds up, he strikes, but he Without him, the stars of our dome would be dark. And we would never see the eyelids of the morning.
In the book of Job, Job argues with friends over the cause of his suffering. Job's friends believe that the innocent do not suffer, that calamity only befalls the damned. Job asserts that the innocent do suffer, but cannot make sense of why. Conflict between community members was a common theme in Indiana's utopias as well. Among the harmonists, the conflict was often generational. Some children of rap's original followers, born before the celibacy rule, fell in love and wished to get married. Those who did faced backlash from their families, who believed that rejecting celibacy was a lower state of grace. Meanwhile, some older members began to distrust George Rapp. Remember, the harmonists believed that Christ could come at any moment. Many older harmonists had been waiting for over 20 years, day in and day out. At a certain point, they may have been too emotionally exhausted to carry on. Conflict beset the Owenite community from the very beginning. Robert Owen recruited friends, family, and colleagues to his endeavor, but he also opened it up to the public without a vetting process. Hundreds of people showed up to New Harmony, but only some were committed to the cause. Many were looking to take advantage of Owen's generosity. Others were zealous about the egalitarian ideas of the community, but were unwilling to work hard. In Jonestown, the conflict was heart-wrenching. When Jim Jones issued his edict to commit suicide, many followed the order at once. But there were those who panicked. Some members only snapped to reality after watching their own children die. One Jonestown survivor recounts the moment that he came to his senses. Like a good little automaton that I was, I proceeded directly to the poison. I heard Jones' wife screaming, "You gotta stop!" It was like waves on the periphery of my consciousness. And I turned to my right, and at that exact instant, they were squirting poison into my baby son's mouth. That was Jonestown. For many, the realization came too late. Anyone who cried, who screamed, who tried to run, they were immediately apprehended by other members of the temple. As one survivor put it, we all participated in it, every last one of us. We're all equally just as guilty. In all three of these utopias, members strained against one another, torn apart by doubts and disagreements. When some people began to see their utopias' imperfections and admit their own suffering, they threatened the entire community's worldview. When you come to question the integrity of your ways, then where is your hope? In despair and bitterness, our man and woman turn on each other, afraid their world is falling apart.
But you, all of you, I cannot find a sensible person among you. My days are past, my plans are broken off, the desires of my heart are crushed. Even when I cry out violence, I am not answered. I call aloud, but there is no justice. Suffering, for I know you will not find me innocent. In your vain hope, you do not see. Your maxims are proverbs of ash. Your defenses are defenses of clay. The iniquitous prosper, the righteous are fools, and the innocent suffer. Are you firstborn of all people?
turn back on our ways, and you will know the face of retribution. Your eyes will see destruction, and you will drink the wrath of the Almighty. You will die in the bitterness of soul. Now